What would you do if you picked up your husband's phone to check the time and saw a text message that began with words that would shatter everything you believed about your life? Jennifer's fingers went numb the moment she saw the screen. The kitchen floor seemed to tilt beneath her feet. It was a Tuesday evening in March. Nothing remarkable about the day. Jennifer stood at the stove, stirring pasta sauce while her daughters watched cartoons in the next room. The kitchen smelled like garlic and tomatoes, warmth rising from the burner. Her husband David's phone sat on the counter where he'd left it, before running upstairs to change out of his work clothes. She reached for it absently, just needing to check the time. The screen lit up at her touch, and a text notification glowed across the wallpaper photo of their family from last summer's beach trip. Rachel. Work. The preview made her stomach drop like an elevator with cut cables. I can't stop thinking about last night. When can we? The pot on the stove hissed as water boiled over. Jennifer didn't notice. Her thumb moved on its own, entering the passcode she'd known for years. The messages opened like a wound, months of them. Scrolling back through February, January, December, nothing explicitly sexual, but something worse, something intimate and alive. You understand me in ways she never has. I feel alive again when I'm with you. Thanks for lunch today. I needed that. Can't wait for tomorrow. Jennifer's legs gave out. She sank down against the kitchen cabinets, phone clutched in both palms, reading message after message. Her breath came in short gasps. The cartoon soundtrack from the living room sounded distorted and far away. Emma and Lily laughed at something on the screen, oblivious to the fact that their mother's world was ending 20 feet away. David's footsteps thudded on the stairs, heavy and familiar, the sound she'd heard thousands of times in 12 years of marriage. He walked into the kitchen, still pulling his t-shirt down over his jeans, smiled at her, then saw his phone in her grasp, and the smile died. Color drained from his face. She watched the recognition hit him like a physical blow. I read everything, Jennifer said. The words came out flat and calm, which surprised her. She'd expected to scream. David's mouth opened and closed. It's not what you think, he finally managed. The words tumbled out fast and defensive. We never. It's just talking. Work stress. She's going through a divorce, and I was trying to help, and it just talking? Jennifer stood up slowly. The phone felt heavy as a brick in her palm. You told her things you haven't told me in years. You said you feel alive with her. That's not... I didn't mean... David reached toward her, then let his arms drop to his sides. The kitchen light made harsh shadows on his face. I haven't touched her. I swear, it's just conversations. Just conversations. Jennifer's laugh came out sharp and bitter. You've been having an emotional affair for months, and you're telling me it's just conversations? Emma appeared in the doorway. Mommy, is dinner ready? Her 9-year-old face creased with worry at the tension she sensed but couldn't name. Almost, baby. Jennifer forced steadiness into her tone. Go watch TV with Lily. I'll call you in a few minutes. The little girl disappeared. Jennifer waited until she heard the cartoon sounds resume. Then she turned to face her husband of 12 years, the father of her children, this man she'd trusted with everything. I want you to leave, she said. Her words came out cold and measured. Tonight, go to your brother's. Don't come back until I tell you. Jennifer, please. His eyes filled. Let me explain. Let me make this right. Leave. Now. She set his phone on the counter and walked past him toward the stairs. Her legs trembled, but she made them work. made herself climb each step, made herself walk into their bedroom and close the door before the sobs came. She slid down against the door and sat on the carpet with her knees pulled to her chest. The bedroom appeared unchanged from that morning. Same unmade bed they'd both gotten out of. Same laundry basket in the corner. Same framed wedding photo on the dresser. But a chasm had opened in the center of her life. Nothing would be the same. Downstairs, she heard David's muffled words as he called the girls for dinner, heard him trying to sound normal. The front door opened and closed 20 minutes later. His car engine turned over in the driveway. The sound faded down the street into silence. Jennifer pulled out her phone. Her fingers barely worked as she texted her sister Rachel, "Can you come over? I need you." Then she lay down on the carpet and stared at the ceiling fan spinning in slow circles above her and tried to understand how her life had become unrecognizable in the space of 30 minutes. The first week crawled by in slow motion. Jennifer called in sick to her nursing shifts at the hospital 3 days in a row. She went through the motions with Emma and Lily, made breakfast, helped with homework, tucked them in at night, then locked herself in the bathroom and wept until her throat burned raw and her eyes swelled shut. David texted constantly, "I'm so sorry, please let me explain. I'll love you, I'll do anything." She blocked his number after the 50th message. If he wanted to communicate about the girls, he could go through Rachel. Her sister showed up every day, brought groceries, did laundry, asked no questions, just sat with Jennifer in the wreckage and held her while she fell apart. On day 10, Rachel found her still wearing the same sweatpants from 3 days earlier. The house resembled a disaster zone. Dishes piled in the sink, toys scattered across every surface, mail unopened on the table. Jennifer sat in the kitchen staring at nothing, coffee growing cold in the mug in front of her. Rachel pulled up a chair and took her sister's hand. "I'm not going to tell you what to do," she said gently, "but before you sign divorce papers, will you see someone with me?" "A counselor?" Jennifer's laugh sounded hollow in her own ears. "Rachel, he had an affair. There's nothing to counsel." "Not for him, for you." Rachel squeezed her fingers. "To help you process this, whatever you decide to do next. There's a woman at my church, Dr. Patricia Morrison. She's a Christian counselor who specializes in marriage crisis. Will you just meet with her once?" Jennifer wanted to refuse. Counseling was for people who had hope, but something in her sister's eyes made her nod. "Fine, 1 session. For you." Dr. Morrison's office felt warm and book-lined. Afternoon sun filtered through cream curtains, dust motes floating in the golden light. The leather chair was cool under Jennifer's palms. A tissue box sat on the small table between them, like it knew what was coming. "Tell me what happened," Dr. Morrison said. "Not what you think you should say, just what happened." The story spilled out, the texts, the discovery, the months of David being distant that she'd explained away as work stress, the way he'd made her doubt her own intuition. Dr. Morrison listened without judgment, nodded occasionally, handed tissues when Jennifer's words broke into fragments. When Jennifer finished, the counselor leaned forward slightly. "What do you want?" "Not what you think you should want, or what anyone else wants. What do you actually want?" "I want," Jennifer's throat closed, "I want my life back. I want to stop feeling this pain every second. I want to not wake up every morning and remember all over again what he did." She stopped. The truth sat heavy on her tongue. "I want my husband back," she whispered. But I don't know if I can forgive this. I don't know if I should even try. Dr. Morrison's eyes were kind but clear. Forgiveness isn't about what he deserves. It's about what you deserve. Freedom from the bitterness that will eat you alive if you let it. Over the next 3 weeks, Jennifer saw Dr. Morrison twice a week. David came for his own sessions, confessed everything, explained how he'd felt invisible in the marriage, how work stress had overwhelmed him, how Rachel at the office had made him feel seen and important. Dr. Morrison didn't excuse his choices, but helped him understand the broken thinking that had led him there. In week 4, they sat in the same room together for the first time. Jennifer chose a chair as far from David as possible. The tension felt thick enough to touch. Dr. Morrison set ground rules: honesty, no defending, active listening. David pulled out a letter he'd written, the pages shaking in his grip. "I betrayed you in the worst way," he began. Each word seemed to cost him something. "I broke your trust. I made you unsafe in your own marriage. There's no excuse for what I did. I was a coward. I ran from our problems instead of facing them with you." Jennifer's nails dug into the armrests. "Did you love her?" David's head came up. Tears tracked down his cheeks. "I convinced myself I did. But it wasn't love. It was escape. It was weakness. And I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix this." Jennifer's words shook with rage she'd been holding back for weeks. "Sorry doesn't take away 4 months of lies. Sorry doesn't make me forget that you told another woman things you should have told me." "I know." David's shoulders sagged. "I want the chance to prove I can be the husband you deserve. I'll do whatever it takes." Dr. Morrison suggested they try a church marriage recovery group. Jennifer resisted. "I don't want everyone knowing our business." "These are couples who've been where you are," the counselor explained. "Some made it through, some didn't. But they understand in ways I can't." The church basement smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. 8 couples sat in a circle of folding chairs under fluorescent lights. Jennifer kept her arms crossed over her chest like armor. An older couple introduced themselves as Tom and Linda, married 28 years. 15 years ago, I had an affair," Tom said calmly. "Almost destroyed us. Linda chose to stay and work through it. Took 3 years before she could trust me again. But we're stronger now than we were before." Linda nodded, her gaze direct. "I chose to forgive. But forgiveness didn't mean instant trust. It meant choosing every day to not let his betrayal define the rest of my life." Something loosened in Jennifer's chest. Permission. These people were giving her permission to take years if she needed. Permission to be angry and still try. Permission to not have all the answers. David moved back home in week 6 but slept in the guest room. They did intensive counseling twice weekly. Jennifer's anger came in waves without warning. Triggers everywhere. His phone lighting up when he was 10 minutes late, any mention of work. She'd lash out and he'd absorb it. Sometimes she'd weep and he'd sit nearby, not touching, just present. One night she threw his phone across the living room. The case cracked against the wall. "I can't do this," she said, her words coming out ragged. "It hurts too much. I can't trust you. I can't stop picturing you with her." David picked up the phone, his movements deliberate. "Then we keep going, however long it takes. I'm not going anywhere." Prayer became Jennifer's lifeline. Angry prayers mostly, whispered in the shower or driving alone in her car. God, if you want me to forgive him, you're going to have to do it through me because I can't. I don't have it in me. The prayers felt like shouting into darkness, but she kept shouting. Easter Sunday came in week 14. Jennifer went to church alone, David staying home with the girls to give her space. She slipped into a back pew just as the service started. The organ swelled through the sanctuary, its bass notes vibrating through the wooden bench beneath her. Morning light streamed through stained-glass windows, casting blue and gold patterns across the polished pews. The pastor preached about the cross, about Christ bearing punishment he didn't deserve, about forgiveness that defied logic, about grace that pursued through the worst betrayal. Jennifer's chest tightened with each word. The sermon landed like physical blows she couldn't dodge. She'd been forgiven so much. Every ugly thought, every moment of selfishness, every time she'd failed, not because she'd earned it, because grace doesn't keep score. The realization hit her like a wave. Mascara tracked down her cheeks in hot trails. The woman next to her offered tissues. Jennifer took them, unable to stop the sobs that shook her shoulders. Not sad weeping anymore. Something breaking open inside her. Something releasing its grip. She understood suddenly what she had to do. Forgiveness wasn't about letting David off the hook. It was about releasing her own right to make him pay forever. It was about choosing freedom over the bitterness that was consuming her from the inside out. It was the hardest, bravest thing she'd ever have to do. She drove home in a daze, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Found David in the kitchen making pancakes with Emma and Lily. Flour dusted his navy t-shirt. He turned when she walked in, and his eyes asked the question he'd stopped voicing weeks ago. I'm choosing to forgive you. The words came out steadier than she expected. It doesn't mean I'm okay. It doesn't mean I trust you yet. It means I'm choosing to try. David's face crumpled. He set down the spatula with a clatter and stood there, not moving. Can I hug you? Jennifer nodded. His arms came around her carefully, like she might shatter. She let herself lean into him for the first time in 3 months. Let herself feel the familiar solidness of him. It wasn't fixed, not even close. But it was a beginning. The next 4 months were hard work. David changed jobs, removing himself from the environment where temptation lived. He gave Jennifer complete access to everything: phone, email, location sharing. Found an accountability partner at church who checked in with him weekly, asking the difficult questions. They started date nights. Awkward at first, sitting across restaurant tables searching for safe topics of conversation, learning each other again like strangers on a first date. Jennifer worked through trust issues with Dr. Morrison twice a month. The triggers still ambushed her. Some days she woke up angry, and David absorbed it with patience she hadn't known he possessed. Small victories accumulated slowly. The first genuine laugh they shared over a shared memory. The first night she didn't check his phone before bed. The first time physical intimacy felt safe instead of triggering. Each one a brick in rebuilding what had burned down. 18 months after the discovery, they stood in front of the marriage recovery group at church. Jennifer's fingers rested in David's palm, not possessive, just connected. The basement felt warmer now, familiar instead of threatening. We're here to tell you it's possible, Jennifer said to the room full of hurting couples. Not easy, not quick, but possible. I thought forgiveness would make me weak. It made me braver than I've ever been. David squeezed her fingers gently. I almost destroyed the greatest gift God gave me. I'll spend the rest of my life proving she made the right choice to give me another chance I didn't deserve. A young couple in the front row leaned forward, the wife's eyes red and desperate. How did you know? She asked. How did you know he wouldn't do it again? Jennifer smiled sadly. I didn't know. I still don't know for certain. That's what trust is, choosing to believe despite what you've seen. It's terrifying and it's daily, and some days I still struggle. She turned to David. But he's shown up every single day for 18 months. He's done the work. He's been patient through my worst moments. And slowly, brick by brick, we've built something that feels more solid than what we had before. Because now it's built on truth instead of assumption. Later that night, they put Emma and Lily to bed together, kissed them goodnight, pulled up the covers, walked downstairs holding hands, fingers interlaced. The house settled into quietness around them. Jennifer made chamomile tea while David loaded the dishwasher, the mundane domesticity feeling miraculous after everything they'd survived. Thank you, David said quietly, drying the last plate, for not giving up on us. Jennifer turned to face him. The kitchen light cast soft shadows. Some days I wanted to, some days I still want to. But I'm glad I stayed. I'm glad we fought through this. She meant it. The scars were still there, visible beneath the surface. Probably always would be. But they weren't bleeding anymore. They'd become part of the story, the hard chapter that made the later chapters possible. Some betrayals cut so deep the wound feels permanent. But faith teaches that nothing is beyond redemption when two people are willing to walk through fire together. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it can write a different future, one where scars become testimonies of grace.